Have you ever written a scene that just falls flat? You know the one? It's all talk and there's just no action. Well, today we are going to unlock the secret to writing with your eyes. We're talking about how to turn those dialogue-heavy moments into unforgettable, truly cinematic experiences. So, let's get visual. So let's kick things off with a really important question. I want you to take a look at one of your scripts. Be honest. Is your dialogue doing all the heavy lifting? If the answer is yes, or even maybe, you might be falling into a super common trap that can absolutely kill your story's momentum. Okay, so first up, let's break down a scene that just plain doesn't work. This is what happens when the story is told to us through a bunch of dialogue, instead of being shown to us through action. It's that classic advice you always hear, right? Show, don't tell. Well, this is the problem in action. And here it is. This is the trap. And look, we've all been there. You put two characters in a room, they start arguing, you think you're writing high-stakes drama. But really, what you've got is a scene that's totally static. It's missing that cinematic punch. And even worse, it becomes completely disposable. So let's look at a case study. Here's the setup. George wants a raise. Simple enough. He goes into his boss Bill's office, and a long, heated argument happens. Now the writer thinks, great, conflict, drama. But from a visual standpoint, it's just two people talking in an office. The action is an afterthought, not the main event. And here is the harsh, brutal truth about scenes like this. These dialogue-only scenes, they are the very first things to get cut in the edit. Why? Because they're expendable. They don't move the story forward visually. So how do we make our scenes, well, uncuttable? All right, now for the fun part, the transformation. This is where the magic happens. We're going to take that boring scene and flip it, taking it from all talk to all action, and making it absolutely essential to the story. So the original scene was all about arguing. The new one? It's completely driven by props and physical action. Now, the dialogue is still there, sure, but it supports the visuals instead of trying to be the whole show. And the result is a scene that goes from long and disposable to short, dynamic, and incredibly powerful. Picture this. This shows the change perfectly. Instead of just arguing, George shows his value. He walks in with a huge stack of folders. That's physical proof of his work. He lays them out one by one. Then he puts down a placard with his exact demand. And then, the best part, a bit of physical comedy. He pretends a rival company is literally pulling him out the door. It's funny, it's visual, and it gets the point across instantly. No argument needed. This right here, this is the ultimate test. I call it the mute test. If you hit mute on the scene, would you still understand the story? And in this new version, the answer is 1000% yes. The props, the action, they tell us everything we need to know. The conflict, the stakes, the resolution, it's all right there visually. So you've seen the incredible transformation. But now you're probably wondering, how do I actually apply this to my own writing? Well, I'm going to give you a simple 3-step blueprint you can use for any scene. Okay, step 1, treat every single scene you write like a mini story. It needs a beginning, a middle, and an end. Step 2, figure out how important it is. Is this scene critical to your main plot? The answer to that question tells you how long it should be and where it should happen. And step 3, this one's my personal favorite. Imagine a single snapshot, a single frame that captures the absolute peak of the drama. For George, it's him hanging onto that door frame. That one image becomes your anchor. All right, so we've covered physical action. But let's take it a step further and talk about another incredibly powerful tool for visual storytelling: symbols. This is how you make inanimate objects speak for you. Now, what do we actually mean by a symbol here? It's not some complicated idea from your old English class. It's actually really simple. It's any object that you, the writer, have packed with meaning. It starts to stand for something bigger, an idea, an emotion, a piece of the past, and it becomes a real part of the audience's experience. Let's use a really classic example to see how this works in practice. We're going to start with a simple but very powerful object: a gun. Now, a gun on its own already carries a ton of meaning, right? We see it and we think power, danger, control. But that's generic. The real magic happens when we give that gun a brand new, very specific meaning that only exists inside our story. So how do we do it? We add context. We reveal that this isn't just any gun on the table. This is the exact gun that was used to murder our hero's father. All of a sudden, that object is now tied directly to the core trauma of the entire story. And just like that, With one piece of information, the gun is completely transformed. It is no longer just a weapon. Now, every single time we see it, it silently screams unresolved revenge. It screams danger. It screams his father's death. See how that works? It's now loaded with meaning. At this point, that gun has basically become a character in the story. Seriously, it can just sit on a table and create more tension than a whole page of dialogue ever could. It's speaking volumes without saying a single word, and that is the power of a great symbol. Okay, let's bring this all home. I want to give you a toolkit, a checklist you can use for writing with your eyes and making every single scene you write really, truly count. So first, let your props and your action do the heavy lifting. Second, make your dialogue active and experiential. Have a character say, "I'm starving," not, "I should probably eat something." Third, treat your sets and locations like they're actors in the scene. Fourth, load those everyday objects with meaning to turn them into powerful symbols. And finally, always make sure the action you choose is true to your character's personality. George's little stunt worked for him, but it might not work for your hero. Look, if you take only one thing away from all of this, please make it this right here. Before you write a single line of dialogue, try to choreograph the entire scene silently. Tell the whole story with just actions, objects, and expressions. Then, and only then, go back and put the words in. And that's the challenge that I'm going to leave you with. The next time you sit down to write, before you type a single word of dialogue, ask yourself this: what story can my scene tell before anyone ever says a word?